Welcome to the ODDSBREAKER'S #1 place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 2 of 2021. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the ODDSBREAKERS. Follow us on social media / the ODDSBREAKERS. This episode is being brought to you by mybookie.ag. For a 200% sign-up bonus, please visit MyBookie and use the promo code TheOddsBreakers. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out and sponsor our podcast and website, we'd love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. For $24.99 a month, you can get my premium plays before the line moves. And if nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. My friends, we are rolling into the college football national championship. I hope you listened to the last podcast we had with Doug Upstone. We discussed some college basketball sports betting tactics and techniques. We discussed NFL wildcard weekend games with some plays. And we definitely touched on the college football national championship game. Now, this podcast is going to be shorter just because we're kind of ramping into our new time slot here, going Thursday night / Friday morning. This is for college basketball. We're always going to be doing this weekly now for college basketball, this time slot, because we want to set you up for your weekend of watching the games. There's going to be our Tuesday 2-pack article on the website as well. There might even be an earlier podcast some weeks after NFL season is over. But, until the Super Bowl, obviously, we're still going to have 2 shows a week. And then February, going to play it by ear a little bit. But either way, we're going to try to give you more content and more information to handicap your games and hopefully get you to the winning tickets. All right. So I have 3 plays. I don't even know about plays here. 3 games I'm going to break down. There should be some plays. I mean, you have to predict the lines on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday when this happens. We're usually only a point or 2 off at the most. Sometimes we're dead right on. And it's easy to do that because, well, the sports books really emulate KenPom, and then they predict where the money's going to go, and they juice it up like that. So usually right about that, and then you use other handicapping tactics to try to find an angle. And that's kind of what we're going to do today. And we're going to discuss 3 games. In the future, we're going to have some guests to do this with us, of course, like we did last year, all the way through March Madness. And it's better happen this year. Otherwise, it's going to be hell to pay. But I think it will. And I love college basketball. We're definitely going to have some fun with it. Before I get into college basketball, we have our first college football prop play for you guys. Oh, yes. First prop play. I'm very excited about that because I think it's a good one. And I think it should pay out. So, without further ado, I'm going to get into that first. All right. Here's the deal. It's an MVP prop, but I like taking both sides of the coin. All right. If you heard these podcasts before, there's different ways of approaching this. And usually we win one of these and they pay pretty decently, right? I mean, look at it this way. Think to yourself, if you're an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, what do you feel better about? Laying minus 300 to win the game or getting plus 350 on Mac Jones for MVP?
What a stupid question that is. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions.
Well, I think it's obvious that you're going to want that plus money. this. And to be honest with you, I can't see how Mac Jones doesn't get this MVP. All right. The guy was the Heisman leader for a pretty decent portion. I mean, he was back and forth with Trevor, and then he kind of pulled ahead of Trevor. And then here comes Devontae Smith at the end to swoop in the Heisman Trophy. Well, do you really think that they're going to give Devontae Smith the MVP too after the kind of year that Mac Jones had? I mean, Mac Jones only threw for 4,036 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions this year. Are you kidding me? I mean, do you think that anybody will be getting this MVP except for Mac Jones if Bama wins this game? I'll tell you right now, if it doesn't go to Mac Jones, it's going to be fucking bullshit. So it's obvious to me that there's value here. Plus 350 for a quarterback to win the MVP. You know quarterbacks win the MVP. And I don't necessarily see them running all over Ohio State. Ohio State's going to get some points. They're going to have to throw the ball. I know Najee Harris is great. He's plus 600 if you even want to sprinkle that, but I'm not. I think this thing is going to him if he wins the game. On the other side of this play, I mean, Ohio State's already a plus 250, plus 260, depending where you look, dog to win this thing. Why not also throw a few units on Ohio State at plus 250 because it pays plus 150 if Mac Jones doesn't even win it. Plus 150 here. You have both sides of this thing, right? Now, I like this because I think there's more of a chance if Ohio State wins, maybe it could go to Sermon. It's probably going to go to Justin Fields for MVP, right? Probably. But maybe Chris Olave catches all the passes. Maybe Garrett Wilson catches all the passes and somehow it slips out of Fields' hands. But Fields coming in banged up to this game after having such a great year last year. I think he's a real great chance to get MVP. So I think you throw a unit on him too. Right? So to sum it up, 2 units on Mac Jones at plus 350. If Ohio State wins, that thing still pays you plus 225. Okay? 2 units on Ohio State money line, right? Plus 250 just to win the game. If Ohio State loses and Mac Jones gets the MVP, that's fine. You got your plus 225. If Ohio State wins, it pays plus 150 because you have to minus out your bet for Mac Jones. That's still great. Plus 150 here, right? And if Justin Fields wins the MVP and Ohio State wins, with the 1 unit you're going to put on, you're going to get 1 unit at plus 425, 2 units at plus 150, right? So that's your icing on the cake. Ohio State could win and Justin Fields could get the MVP. Worst thing that can happen here, obviously, unless someone else gets the MVP on Alabama here, is that Justin Fields doesn't win the MVP, but Ohio State still wins it. You still get plus 100 if that happens. You take away your Mac Jones money, you lost from plus 250 to plus 150, and you take away your half the size play on Justin Fields, you're at plus 100. You're still made money through this whole process. So that's, I think, a very good way to approach this thing. And that's what we're doing here at the Odds Breakers. So hopefully, if, the biggest thing, Alabama wins, you really needed Mac Jones to get the MVP. Otherwise, you're going to be out your units. But I just don't see how they don't give it to Mac Jones here after what he went through this year and how good he's been. All right, let's get into a little college basketball. January 8th to January 10th plays. And we're going to start right out with Purdue versus Michigan State. I'm going to put the line at minus 3.5. I'm kind of hoping for a 3. Hint, hint. But total on this game is 143.5. So I look at this game. It's a little bit of a short spread for Michigan State at home. I mean, you know how Michigan State is at home. They're not necessarily as good as those Michigan State teams, remember, but they're going to get better. They're going to improve. But the reason for this high total is that the Big Ten has been going over the total in general, thanks to the way that they went last year, that way that things went. But we're in conference play now, and it's an entirely different animal, right? And some of these seconds for possession stats are skewed in KenPom because the Big Ten played some very easy non-conference games. Very easy. When these teams play each other in the Big Ten, it tends to be more of a chess match, okay? More of a methodical game. You know, there's a lot of defense involved. Purdue, very tall team. Travion Williams is at 6'10". Freshman that Zach Edney is at 7'4". But don't be fooled about that because Purdue, they ranked 9th worst in near proximity points at 67.45. These big men kind of just stand there. But this shows me that Michigan State's going to be able to score with good ball rotation in the paint. But they're also a decent three-point shooting team with Hauser there. You know, he leads the way, and he gets hot, especially at home. Both these teams are bad at the free throw line, which should lessen the total points scored. But Purdue doesn't do anything that great. You know, they could struggle on the road at the Breslin Center. Purdue, they only average 68 points per game on the road, and they have yet to win a road game. Okay? It's early, but I don't think they get it here. Michigan State averages 82.6 points per game at home with their only bad game versus a pretty good Wisconsin team, a very experienced Wisconsin team. Right now, obviously the stat includes all the cupcakes they play at home because every year the Big Ten gets a bunch of cupcake games at home. So I'm not just going by that, and you should never do that because of that. But I still think they're a good home team. I think State's going to cover this spread. I don't like it at 4.5. I saw some 4.5s that just opened. I'm going to wait on it. I'm going to like it at 3.5 for 2 stars. But I like the under a lot more, right? And at 143.5, I don't see how these two teams get that high unless, of course, you get that bad overtime luck. So we're going to go under 143.5 in this game. Friday night special, 2.5 star premium shared play.
Oh, yeah!
All right, next game, we're going to go right into Saturday. Clemson versus North Carolina. I'm predicting a spread of around -1, -2. The total on this should be around 131. This is a very nice ACC matchup here with the current best team in the ACC in Clemson, believe it or not. And they're playing a very young North Carolina team. Clemson has actually been amazing on defense, right? They actually rank number 1 on KenPom in defensive efficiency in the league. That's pretty amazing stuff. I watched their games, and I have to agree. They have a great defense. I now put it, when I say agree, I don't know if they're number 1. They're probably top 5. I think Baylor's better. But either way, from what I saw from Clemson, I'm convinced. North Carolina, on the other hand, is its own animal. They play kind of a fast pace, 15.8 seconds per possession, but they also play really good defense this year, ranking 14 on KenPom, right? And kind of rare to see North Carolina play good defense, but a lot of those games are against some easier teams too. And And they're probably making up for what they did last year. Because if you remember, North Carolina was a big, let's just say, disappointment last year. And they just didn't go anywhere. Now, when I go over this defensive efficiency and stuff, it's well-known information on Ken Pom, right? I mean, it's ranked there. You can't go by Ken Pom as much. I mentioned that earlier in a different podcast, and that's why you kind of have to go against the narrative. What's going to happen here is you're going to see this total go down a bit, in my opinion. I think it gets to 129, 128, right? And it's just because the way these teams are playing defense, especially Clemson. Clemson unders have been hammered lately. Just hammered lately. And it's not like I disagree with them all. But in this case, I think Clemson is playing faster than what people think. I mean, they rank 305th in pace, but they only rank a 210th in average possession length. So they play slow, yes, but they're running the clock out on a lot of these teams, right? They don't have a close game. This is going to be a close spread, so they will. And I think if they play a better team, like a North Carolina, there's a good chance that there's going to be some points here. Okay? You know, this game is at North Carolina, so I expect some whistles to go North Carolina's ways. Here's some a very interesting thing that I saw. When Clemson faced taller teams, Clemson's not that tall, but when they faced taller teams like Purdue, the game went to 151 points, right? When Clemson faced Florida State, which is also a taller team, the total went to 142. The over-under on that game was 130. So I think in this situation, North Carolina's a tall team. They're going to get their points in the paint. They're going to get some fouls. And I think Clemson can be scored upon down low. So, in my opinion, I think this game does go over. I'm not going to run and try to bet it. This is going to be one on Saturday morning, probably 2 hours before the game. Maybe you get some more over before the game, right before it. But maybe 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, you take a look. And if that thing's in the 120s, is probably where I put the buy sign on this one. I'm going to take over 129 on this baby. And I will take it at 131. It just won't be as much of a play. But I'm going to give this a 2.5 star premium share play at 129. All right, the last game is going to be on Sunday. And guess what conference it's going to be? The Big Ten. I mean, that have to be a pretty easy guess. Because if you couldn't guess the Big Ten, then
you don't know me.
We're going to do Minnesota versus Iowa. Iowa is minus 7.5. The total on this game is 163. So this is going to be a monster size total. I mean, 163. And I don't disagree with it because both of these teams play quite fast, right? The key to this handicap is a couple of things. First, Minnesota has been a great home team, but a very bad road team so far. Since 2019, Minnesota is 5-10 against the spread on the road, and they only won 2 true road games last year. Iowa, on the other hand, is 18-4-1 since 2019 as a home team. That's pretty dang good. 18-4-1. And they're probably getting those lines juiced because these are based on closing lines. So when you bet on teams like Iowa, they tend to get margin at the end of the game because they play so fast. You know, I like betting on Iowa when they're a moderate favorite because at the end of the game, they're going to get more possessions to cover the spread for you, right? Now, if they're a moderate dog, they could lose by more like that. You know, that happens. And so it's not going to happen with this Iowa team because they're rarely going to be a moderate dog. I mean, they're such a good team this year. But the only time you don't back Iowa is when they face an amazing defense on the road. Yeah, that's kind of the way I'm looking at Iowa. But this spread is probably going to creep up a bit. But I think that Iowa's going to get the job done. And maybe you take this one a little earlier because Minnesota had such a poor performance against Michigan last game. But I like the Iowa side at -7.5 here because Minnesota's on the road, and I like it all the way up to 9.5. And I like this baby for 3 stars, premium shared play.
Here's to swimming with bow-legged women.
All right, my friends. That concludes our shorter show today. But like I said, we're going to start having more guests to do college basketball, most likely starting next week. So thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you'd like me to break down a game for you on our next week, even the earlier football pod, please tweet us at the Odds Breakers. I'm more than happy to look into that for you or get a different handicapper that might specialize in that conference to look at it for you as well. Thank you for being there for the Odds Breakers, my friends. Enjoy the weekend of games and go get some winners.